So back in the day, we didn't have BitTorrent and all these torrents that are out there, all right? And we didn't have a lot of storage on hard drives. So what you would do is say you found a game, Duke Nukem, Postal, something like that. You would go to a website and they would have it uploaded to a server. And here's Jesse showing you some 3.5 floppies that held, I think, 1. All right, so they held what, 1.44 megabytes worth of data, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So what you would do, say the file, the game was, say, 30 megabytes, which is not big when you consider Call of Duty is over 100 gigabytes for an install these days. But back then, Duke Nukem, 20, 30 megabytes tops, all right?
Yep.
So you'd press on that file. You would have to save it to those types of disks that Jesse just showed you on screen, all right? So you would pop in one disk into your floppy drive. It would write 1.44 megabytes worth of information. Then a little message would pop up saying insert disk 2. And you would keep doing that until you got to insert disk 30. So you'd take your stack of fucking disks and then you'd try to install it on your machine. And hopefully it was written correctly and you would get the entire thing installed over the space of, an hour and a half. It was called spanning disks, by the way. These days you've got gigs and terabytes worth of data and you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. You got BitTorrent, so it's fine. Piracy these days is great. You were the entrepreneurial guy. You decided to take your Duke Nukems and whatever software that anybody in
3D and Doom
Doom, can't forget that. Unreal Tournament, all that.
And where I made a boatload of money was from Doom. And it wasn't distributing Doom because I actually went to a pretty wealthy school that most of the parents was very, upper income. I wasn't, but their families were. And here was the cool thing. We went to an electronics show. I've never even said this before. We went to an electronics show and I bought some disc from a guy there, just a single disc.
I bought some disc from a guy. I knew a guy.
And it was a mod for Doom where you could replace the aliens with Energizer bunnies.
Of course you could.
Yeah, why not?
Who doesn't want to kill that fucking rabbit?
And then another mod was replacing them with the Kool-Aid guy. So I bought those two discs.
Don't you hate
little Jim Jones?
I do. When I was little, I hated the Kool-Aid guy. I always sat around and thought I'd be so angry if he bust through my wall, especially in the winter. I used to think about that as a kid.
These days, I'm not a kid. I'm a kid at heart. So these days, I think about a home invasion of some unfortunate would-be criminal busting in and that 12-gauge Remington 870 just waiting for them. That's my Kool-Aid man of today.
Yeah. Part of what got me into reverse software engineering was those two floppy disks because I took the Energizer Bunny one, and when I was learning how to crack software, I figured out how to modify the graphics that was in the DLL of it.
And you gave the rabbit boobs.
In there. There was a picture I had from the school, a digital picture of our school principal, and I put the principal in there, and I distributed that, and it was like $20 for the disc if you wanted it.
That shit today would get you locked up.
I did not know that.
You talked about curiosity. The story about Doom's outstanding, but there was also a degree, from what I was reading yesterday about you, there was a degree of an ideological motivation for some of this stuff because you targeted Middle Eastern servers at one point, right?
Oh yeah, I will get to that because that comes down the line number of years later, and that was a very vigilante hacktivist stage of my life. But so in '94, I get into software distribution pirating. '95, I start learning how to crack software, and because I was cracking software, the registration codes and things like that, I started finding some bugs and things in it. Well, then I started learning how to take and craft those into exploits.
Okay.
And a lot of the first things that I worked diligently on for months was things like Microsoft IIS web server.
Right.
And a lot of the various FTP software that was out in the mid 90s. And because I realized, so I started when I was working on, I think it was a Windows 95 registration problem that the group was having. And I was just kind of like trailing along, learning, helping on this. I found a situation in Windows 95 that I was pretty confident was a backdoor put in by the vendor.
Okay.
Could be wrong. I don't know. But when I shared it in the group, they quickly said, this is not the place for that. We're not hacking. We're software pirating wars, blah, blah, blah. And then someone messaged me, and we were on IRC, and said, hey, I know some people that would be interested in what you found. So invited me to some other channels, some other servers. And I really got excited about the idea of like finding these backdoors that vendors may put in or other bugs, and then how to take those bugs and actually turn them into workable exploits. So I spent almost all of 1996 doing that.
Okay.
I was so passionate in 96 about like doing it. It was the coolest thing to me because I love to rip things apart and see how you put them together.
Right.
So I remember sitting in the IRC chat when the Department of Justice website, very famous hack, happened. I was sitting in the chat room while people's talking about it, and they're prepping it. They're getting it ready. They're putting together the HTML for it.
Right.
You know, all this stuff. So then moving forward, 97, 98, very similar. When I get to 1999, I wanted to hang out with a different group of people. I wanted to expand. And there were some people I met that were into into website defacing. And I wanted to hang out with them, but it was kind of like that, you know, you got to be one of us to hang with us.
Right.
And it kept coming back. And this was like over the course of a year, because it really started in like 98. And I was like, no, I'm not into that. That's not. And so then I was like, you know what? I do want to just hang with these people. They have some exploits that they've been using that I don't know. They keep contacting me for exploits I've been generating and writing. So I was like, okay, fine. And I hit a couple sites. I defaced them.
Okay.
This was before I was Hackah Jak.
Now this was strictly to just be able to join that group, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I get my way into the group and I'm like, aha. So I pretty much, I only defaced a couple sites at that time. And so in 2000, I'm hanging with them. I get to know a guy named Pantera, P for NTRA. And he started a group, I think it was called Fear the Beer. And then the next group like that, it changed the name, morphed into Hackwiser.
Okay.
And a play on Budweiser. And
Right.
so I was showing off, you know, with a handful of people one night, and he was there, and he messages me. He goes, dude, your collection of exploits is just insane. I've never seen anything like this. And so I sent him a couple 0 days that I had. I shared with him some other things, and he goes, I would like you to join Hackwiser as, you know, one of our Windows exploitation specialists. He didn't call it that, but, you know, in modern terms, that's what it would be called. So I end up joining the group. I contemplate on it, and I put together a brand new persona, which is what I'm now known as, Hackah Jak.
Okay.
Before that, I never used the name. I mean, it was invented for my joining of Hackwiser.
What was your name prior to that?
Uh-huh.
It was a lot.
I've never released that.
Okay.
The only time that's ever been released is when the FBI found out, because you know, they had a program called 5Rs.
Right.
And you sign an agreement, anything disclosed. They called it King for the Day. It was
Right.
King for 2 weeks. That's when they found out and was able to put it together.
Okay.
But maybe one day in my life, on my deathbed, I'll release that. But
Okay.
I joined Hackwiser, and you know, I start helping in very high profile, prolific hacks. It was to boost the group's reputation.
Now, when you say hacks, are you breaching, or are you just defacing websites at this point?
Yeah, defacement.
Okay.
So, and some of them are, you know, everything from like, we alluded to it earlier, Girl Scouts, Jenny Craig.
Sure.
some bank systems, some high tech, some tech companies, government, military, all sorts of stuff.
Was there
And then,
was there a common theme for the targets that you would seek out, or was it just any website that happened to have a vulnerability at that point?
so yes, on both ends. So I would help a lot of the other members when they were hacking something. A lot of my hacks were typically more targeted because I had the collection of 0 days that even, fully patched systems, I could just still nail down no problem,
Okay.
which was an absolute rarity in the community. Most hacks happen from unpatched systems, human error, and configuration problems.
Right.
And I'll even get into some of that here in a minute. But for me, it was sharing. So I helped. I was part of the group to hack some high-profile sites to bolster the group's reputation through defacements. But then also, I started sharing my. I started writing exploits and scanners and automation tools for the group to automate their hack processes, to automate log destruction, to literally some of the first ever in the hacker industry, full automation.
Okay.
There is a defacement up that actually shows where I had a bot in IRC, and I literally told the bot, go hack the site, and it used a 0 day and fully automated, hacked it, destroyed the logging, everything, and then returned to me, here you go, what's next?
Okay. Now,
So-
were you charging for this bot or not?
No.
Okay.
So, everything, I never, other than the software, I never made money. I did actually have some financial accounts because I knew that one day, because the level in which I was going to, I may have to go on the run.
Right.
Like, I come to terms with that, and I knew that I would have to have money. So, in 2001, while I was with Hackwiser, the U.S. had a spy plane, a Navy spy plane, flying off the coast of China in international airspace over international water, and a Chinese fighter jet took it down, landed in the South China Sea, and there was this whole big chaos and eruption that happened over it in media. And being, a young kid, I was pretty patriotic. I was, and I wanted my voice to be heard in this. So I started, as the New York Times dubbed it, it was the first U.S. cyber war that the U.S., people from the U.S. entered into. Right. It was the very first U.S. cyber war. It was against China. And later, not much later, New York Times dubbed it as the first cyber world war.